welcome to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend, the show that Tyrese Halliburton's dad is always invited to. We've got a great one for you today. So much sports betting to get to: basketball, hockey, horse racing. But the best news of all, we are just 97 days until the NFL season kicks off, which is still 97 too many. And to help us celebrate cracking 100 days, we've got ESPN NFL analyst and recent Emmy winner Dan Orlovsky joining us. He'll tell us why the Lions over-under wins total doesn't make sense and how he'd handle the Cleveland Browns' crowded quarterback situation. Then my D3 will join us to talk about a possible Thunder dynasty. We'll discuss this weekend's World Series rematch, Ohtani versus Judge. We'll have Belmont best bets, but before any of that, it's time for a segment that tests my reflexes and reactions. It involves our producer, babyface Joel Solomon, throwing a crumpled up piece of paper with a thought written on it in my direction. I'll catch it, I'll read it, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the issue. This is Tossing Topics. All right, babyface. Fire away. Good. This is Sick of Soto. All right, Sick of Soto. I'm sick of talking about him, that's for sure. Everywhere I go, on every podcast, at every grocery store, during every colonoscopy exam, everyone's asking me if I'm worried about Juan Soto. I guess because I'm a Mets fan and because Juan is struggling, I should make the decision to trade him and void his 15-year, $765 million deal, right? But the truth is, I'm not worried. Juan Soto is in a slump, but it's a long season. I'm confident he's going to be productive in a Mets uniform, even those ugly City Connect versions. Look, this was a Mets marriage. We took a vow. Till death or PED scandal do us part. There was no prenuptial agreement. We did it the Travis Hunter way. But what I am worried about is the constant fear-mongering created by networks showing various depressing Soto stats between every pitch.
That will bring up the struggling Juan Soto,
where he signs what is the largest contract in baseball history.
This drives me insane. Every single pitch is a new stat. How Juan Soto was better this time last year with the Yankees or with the Padres or in middle school. Now I just hope Juan swings at the first pitch so I don't have to deal with this. Last week, I think Fox went a little too far, reporting that Juan's IBS is higher than his OBS. ESPN and Fox and all the fans are going out of their way to demonstrate that everything was better pre-Juan Soto. The price of bread was lower. Near catastrophes at Newark Airport didn't exist. They even blamed Soto for Billy Joel canceling his summer tour. Get better soon, Piano Man. Look, Mets fans, we've been dealing with slumping big-name free agents for all of our lives. Bobby Bonilla, Jason Bay, Oliver Perez, Bobby Bonilla. Okay, I'm getting depressed and starting to short circuit a little. Toss me another one, babyface. Milk celebration. All right, last week, the 109th running of the Indy 500 took place. And since 1936, with just a few exceptions, the winner of this race has celebrated by dousing themselves with milk in the winner's circle. How and why did this start? I have no idea. I'm sure it's a really dumb reason. Anyway, this year's winner, Alex Palou, didn't go the full milky and just drank and was a real gentleman about it. I heard his mother said he was also a very fussy breastfeeder. But no worries, because a new trend started this week where Milkomania swept the nation, and it wasn't just auto racing. From Fenway Park to Citi Field, baseball fans were celebrating by dumping calcium deposits all over themselves. Those fans got more than just a milk mustache. Here in LA, they went all out celebrating with organic barista blended oat milk. But you know who's going to love this new trend? Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh, a huge pasteurized liquid aficionado. Forget the Gatorade bath. If the Chargers win the Super Bowl, he'd kill to swim in milk. Seriously, I'm digging this new milk movement. I love fans celebrating. I also love fans breaking their own TVs after big losses, so I'm sort of a weirdo. But so long as stadium security continues to be pretty lactose intolerant about it and no one cries over spilled milk, I could do this till the cows come home. But all right, for everyone's sake, I'll stop milking this topic. Give me another one, babyface. NBA endless endings. All right. The last few minutes of these NBA playoff games have been torturous to watch, like even more than usual, especially brutal if the game is tight, which is ironic, right? These officials are reviewing everything to the 10th of a microsecond. Referees study plays in the last minute like it was a Zapruder film. Was Obi Toppin the second shooter? Did I see Chet Holmgren on the grassy knoll? Ugh, every Lee Harvey hoops head was like, enough already. Put me out of my misery. It takes forever. I sometimes feel like they're not even scanning replays. I feel like a lot of the officials have fallen asleep watching highlights on C-SPAN. I looked into this, and you know where the NBA Replay Center is located? Secaucus, New Jersey. You know what else is going on in Secaucus, New Jersey? Nothing! I honestly didn't know they had TVs in Secaucus. Step one, we need to move this control center somewhere else, anywhere else, where the process can be expedited. And I think I found the perfect place. Dave & Buster's. They've got a gazillion flat screens that can be turned into replay monitors. Put some multitasking dads in charge. They could review replay while playing Dance Dance Revolution with their daughters and get these playoff games done before 3 a.m. Eastern. And the best part is you could pay them in kickin' chicken pot stickers. It's a win-win for everyone. Sorry, Secaucus, but you see Saucus at this. It's time to move on. Now let's not waste any more time and get to my weekly irrationally angry attempt to make rational sense of a somewhat irrational bet. It's Wager Rage. All right, there are fewer than 100 days left until NFL kickoff, and just like Chris Collinsworth, I'm starting to get goosebumps on my spleen the size of milk duds. I gotta tell you, Mike, fun to bring Collinsworth back into my life and into my larynx. Anyway, I have decided it is not too early to put in an NFL futures bet. Throw one out there that doesn't cash until January. This way, if God forbid I have a heart attack and expire from the excitement of watching the French Open quarterfinals, at least my wife can have a nice little term life insurance policy, or turf life, if you will. And so here it is, my very first NFL future of the year, coming at you in late May, the Detroit Lions to make it to the divisional round at plus money. And you might say, Sal, why don't you wait a while? What if they have the year from hell? Well, first of all, we're not on a first name basis, so back off a little with the Sal stuff. And secondly, I can't wait. Didn't you hear me? There are fewer than 100 days until kickoff. And thirdly, Detroit already had their year from hell. Sure, they had 15 wins, undefeated on the road, but this was all despite getting crushed with 16 players on IR entering the playoffs last year. 16, including like 6 defensive starters, which of course included Aiden Hutchinson, who before he terrorized his tibia was well on his way to leading the league in sacks. The injury bug can't bite like this again. The sports gods can be cruel, but not that cruel. That would be like making people wait as you scan 31 items in the express lane cruel. So even though I may have higher aspirations in the divisional round for Coach Campbell's kneecap gobblers, for now, plus money to win one playoff game or to get the bye and win no playoff games is pretty goffin' great. We've got to take our first break, but when we return, Dan Orlovsky tells us why Jared Allen owes him a bottle of wine and who he thinks should be on the U.S. Olympic flag football team. That's next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. All right, welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend, and let's bring in our guest. He's a former NFL quarterback turned Emmy Award-winning analyst. Take that, Tom Brady. But his real claim to fame is throwing a cookie directly into my mouth from 10 yards away last year during the Super Bowl week. From the outstanding studio show ESPN Live, Dan Orlovsky is here. What's happening, Dan?
What's going on, bud? Why didn't we replicate the cookie thing this year?
I know. I just, people thought it couldn't be done 2 years in a row, so I guess just leave them wanting more. Where does that rank amongst your best throws ever, would you say?
As far as like an adult, pretty good. I had some as a teenager that might beat it, but adult, that's number one.
It really is hard for adults to pull that off. Yeah. Listen, congrats on the Emmy. You do such a great job on ESPN. How did avoiding 300-pound linemen prepare you to deal with Stephen A. Smith screaming at you all day long?
It's I don't know if it prepared me that much. You know, it was funny. You mentioned the Emmy night. If I was going to be the person to speak, Laura Rutledge was the person to designate to speak, but I was going to get up there and be like, just want to say thanks to all the coaches who fired me and made me realize I wasn't good enough as a player to make enough money to not have to have a job. So
that's good.
Yeah. You know, getting chased by those guys probably brought a little bit more of a comfort level, because with Stephen A., I don't know. There's probably a line that you can't go past, and I probably flirt with that line a lot when it gets to chopping back at him. So we have some fun. We have some fun with it. I'm hoping I don't cross the line too much.
It's a good time. Now, listen, before we get to the regular season, which is now mercifully less than 100 days away, that's just great. So one of the more interesting things to come out of this offseason is the flag football dilemma in the Olympics. Now, we know the NFL announced that one player per team will be allowed to do this, to compete on the flag football. Flag football is 5-on-5, 10 players per team. Help me understand who's deciding this. Who have you heard is interested in this, if anyone?
Yeah, I think that there's been a pretty good response from present players. I mean, Justin Jefferson being very outspoken about it. I think Tyreek Hill as well. So I really believe this would be a little bit individualized. You're not going to get every guy wanting to do it, but I do think that there's going to be a pretty good group of guys because these are the best of the best of the best. They've climbed the mountain. The only really mountain that they felt in their life that they wanted to climb was becoming a professional football player and then mastering that. A bunch of guys have. And now this is another challenge, another mountain. So I would imagine that there's going to be some people who say, I want to play. And there will probably be owners who step in and say, that's not going to happen. I would anticipate agents will get into the conversation as well of, hey, if you're a guy that's going into a contract year and you're one good season away from getting a massive payday, that might be another conversation as well. So it'll be a little bit individualized would be my expectation.
Okay, but what about when we get there? Is it just a foregone conclusion that we wipe the mat with anyone we play because we are bigger, we are faster, we are professional football players in America? Or could it be this, basketball thing where, the Croatian team played together for 6 years. They know everything about the plays and how to adjust and everything. Is there a downside is what I'm saying in us joining this?
I don't think there's a downside. I think there's only upside. It's great business by the NFL. You're bringing your game, or at least a version of it, across the world to everybody in every age. I will say this. If the NFL players, for the most part, take it relatively seriously, the way that they do their careers, there won't be a team that can compete with them. They're just too good at the game. But the game is different. I've seen, one of the first things I did in TV was call some of the flag football games for NFL Network probably 7 or 8 years ago. There is a different element to it because of all the laterals and whatnot and what you can and can't do in certain situations. But if they take it seriously, no one will compete with them.
All right. That's what I like to hear. All right. Now back to the NFL. Let's start with quarterbacks because let's be honest, they're more exciting than punters. Now, I've picked the Offensive Rookie of the Year the last 2 years. Bryce Young and Caleb Williams were the favorites the last 2 seasons. I zagged and went with C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels. I haven't made my pick yet. This year, the quarterback is not the favorite. It's Ashton Gente. Are you leaning Cam Ward to maybe take home this trophy?
Yeah, I think Cam's going to have a pretty darn good rookie season. I really do believe that they're going to replicate some of the stuff that they did with Burrow when he was younger in Cincinnati. That offensive line should be a lot improved. If Calvin Ridley takes a little bit of a step forward now, a couple years back from the suspension, he should be a dynamic player. So I think that Cam's going to seamlessly step in. I don't expect him to be what Jaden was for Washington last year, but I do think he's going to have some success. How much are they going to give the ball to Gente will go a long way to determining, how much that actually matters. I actually think both the tight ends could get into the conversation who were first-round picks, Colston Loveland to Chicago and then Tyler Warren to Indy, because I think that those guys are going to be such focal points for the pass game. So I think Cam is very much so going to be in that conversation.
All right. I like what you said about the tight ends. You get monster odds on either of those guys. So also I'm looking at odds here. I'm talking to you late May here, but you could bet on who will be the starting quarterback for some of these teams. Cleveland, the favorite is Flacco. Saints, it's Shook. Colts, it's Richardson. The Giants is Russell Wilson. Which is the shakiest to take this first snap in September out of the 4 that I named, would you say?
I would say Cleveland. I just think situation-wise, Joe is obviously very accomplished, but I think that you would be hard-pressed to get me to start Joe Flacco if I was Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. Because now it's an easy thing for me to say sitting here, but yes, they got to win. They got to be competitive. Their jobs, very much so the spotlight is on that. But if Joe Flacco plays good, solid football for you and you go 9-8, what does that really do for the big picture? And eventually the big picture needs to be the main picture in Cleveland. And I would be a little bit more like if it was very close, 55-45 type of thing, Flacco to one of those rookies, either Gabriel or Shador, I would start him. And I would see, did we somehow stumble into fool's gold in a little bit of a way? Because if you did, then next year your draft with 2 first rounders is like, hey, we might have a chance in to really recoup this real quick. Or neither of these guys are going to be good enough to make us take a guy or make us not take a guy early on. So if Joe plays good, I just don't think that flips kind of the trajectory of the organization.
Yeah. So interesting. So you're saying the only way maybe you wouldn't start Flacco is if Shador or Gabriel clearly aren't ready. We're forgetting Kenny Pickett in this mix too. So
the only way I would start Joe is if I felt both of those rookies would be utter disasters.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's stay in the AFC North here. This offseason it seemed very un-Steelers-like. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is just pranking them at this point?
I would be disappointed if that was the case. You know, I would hope he would have more respect for that organization and Tomlin than that. I would anticipate that he does. You know, it's June. You know, it's basically June and there's no decision. And it is wild to me. I mean, I grew up basically with the Steelers being like one of the 3 teams, you know, and then I went through the Big Ben era where they were like the organization. And now it's wild to me that it's June and there is this unknown, this hostage, you're just waiting there. And if not, there's absolutely no plan. And I know people are like, Mike Tomlin's a great coach. I love Mike Tomlin, but there's also the reality, and no one can argue with me, that if they go into the season presently constructed, there's no way that you can't tell me, or that you can tell me, that they've just given up on what their ultimate goal is for this year. There's no way that anybody can sit there and tell me, yup, we're competing for a championship. No, you're not. And you know you're not. So I guess deep down to my core, think Aaron's going to be there, but it's June.
Yeah, it's got to kind of happen before this interview even posts at this point, right? It's just we're getting the nitty gritty here.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. The over under win totals come out, and the one that jumped out at me is your Lions, or your former Lions, are only 10.5. Now, this is after winning 15 games. This is after really experiencing the season from hell injury wise, right? At one point, I think they had like 23 players on the IR, including Aiden Hutchinson, of course, and probably 6 defensive starters when it was all said and done. Is this a fair number at 10.5 only because they're losing the coordinators? Is it that big? Is it going to make that big a difference? Or do you say, no, this is an 11-12 win team either way?
I would take the over. Now, it did to Philly a couple years ago when they lost both their coordinators. That means You're telling me that whoever is making that line at 10.5, that you're really valuing those coordinators at about 3.5 wins in total, 4.5. So this is still one of the best offensive lines in football. It is still one of the best run games in football. Quarterback that's won a ton of games. The defense that absolutely should be better. I'm not minimizing the loss of those coordinators or some of those coaches. I do think they are big question marks. But a team that competes for 14 wins the past 2 years to just completely fall off, I don't want to say fall off, but to come up 3 or 4 wins short of what they've kind of become accustomed to, that would be really big losses that I would be surprised by.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Plus, you can't bank on the Vikings being as good as they were, right? I mean, I still don't know why they were as good as they were, but that was a 14-win team, right? That'll probably go down a little.
I think you can. I think you can bank on here. If you took the quarterback out of Minnesota, you would say that team's going to win 11 games if they just get good quarterback play. Good, not elite, but good. I think JJ McCarthy is in a very similar mold as Sam. That roster's about as top 5 as it gets in the league. Yeah, that's a really good football team. So talent-wise, I think Minnesota's going to be just where they were last year.
All right. You might be right. I think it's asking a lot of him. Plus, they loaded that team up with primetime games and overseas games and stuff like that. So we're going to see them all the time. So Jared Allen, speaking of those Vikings, goes into the Hall of Fame this fall. He was involved in that central play in your career. I feel like if he was chasing me unblocked, I would have stepped out of the end. I probably would have been in the mezzanine. But does Jared owe you a thank you in his speech?
I think I should take, I don't know, we can debate percentages of 2 Hall of Famers, of the reason essentially why that they're in. Calvin Johnson, I don't know, guys. I mean, I threw 13 touchdown passes in 2008 and 13 were to Calvin. So a little stat padding there. Jared's had his that clip has been run on any type of television network for the better part of 15 plus years now. It's become basically the Michael Strahan sack with Brett Favre moment. So, I think maybe a nice bottle of red wine from him would go a long way.
Listen, it's been 17 years, I think, since it's happened, right? And I'm sure it wasn't great at the time for you, but looking back now, isn't it? It's terrific, right? Can people make fun of you? It shows that you're affable. You're able to laugh at yourself. I'm sure you didn't get like death threats. It wasn't like a Bill Buckner situation, right? Where the ball went through his legs.
Because we weren't like we were 0-16. Right. Playoff kind of ramifications. I've laughed about it. I would tell you 98% of the time since it's happened has been all light, all laughs. I played for, I think, another 7 or 8 years after that, which makes, that it easier to accept. If that was like my last play, that'd be a tough one. I've never really taken myself that seriously. Life's good, man. So I don't get hung up on it too much, but I laugh at it. It's a terrible play. It's a stupid play. It's a funny play. So it's a great thing for me with my kids sometimes because all my kids play sports and they'll be like, if they strike out or they get beat in lacrosse or they miss a shot, I'd be like, can't get much worse, guys. You're going to be just fine.
And as you point out in your Twitter bio, the end zone should be 11 yards. Why is it 10? Why'd they stop at 10 anyway?
I think Jimmy's done it since. I think CJ Stroud might have done it last year. Yeah. So there's been a couple of guys that have joined the party, which I'm thankful for.
Do you think when some quarterbacks do it just to take a safety late in the game because they're up against the punt or something, do you feel like they're making fun of you? They're rubbing it in there? Or you get PTSD?
Sometimes there's the George Kittle shot to the Sunday Night Football game. I think there's too many of that coming from some other quarterbacks.
Right. All right. I want to give you a free bet for coming on, wasting your time. Anything you want.
What's the Cowboys win total?
Oh, no. I'm not going to like this. The Cowboys win total. I didn't even talk to you. I'm a Cowboys fan. It's 7.5.
Oh, I would take the over on that.
Oh, good. Oh, all right. That makes me feel good. All right. We're on this together.
I'm a little bit higher on the Cowboys than most people. I think the Cowboys are going to be a good football team competing for a playoff spot.
Listen. They won 12 games 3 years in a row. They slipped up last year. All right, they were hideous at home and probably weren't going to be good anyway before Dak got hurt or had Dak not gotten hurt. But yes, we can go 8-9 for crying out loud. Let's do it.
Easily.
All right,
easily.
That's your free bet. I'm happy. Now listen, before we let you go, we have one last question. This is called Cousins Conundrum.
Cousins Conundrum.
Putting you on the spot here. You just won an Emmy, well-deserved, but I'm offering you the option to trade the Emmy in for either a gold medal as quarterback of the U.S. flag football team or perhaps a more prestigious honor. You're named the new James Bond. You did wear 7 with the Texans. You'd be switching to 007. What are you doing? You're staying or you're trading?
Trading, easy answer. Give me the gold medal for America.
Really? Look at that.
Easy answer.
Nice. What would you do? I see a spot right in the back where it could go. I would
wear that thing cluttered. All over the place. A narcissistic, just at the beach, working out, school drop off, coaching games, whatever.
I am going to campaign for this, Dan Orlovsky. I really think this could happen because I think a lot of the owners would be like, no, Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to try out for this team. And then it could go down. You could be the one. Just keep your hand up there and they'll get you on the roster. I love it.
Four or 500th option.
There you go. All right. Thanks. Thanks so much, Dan. I appreciate it. Enjoy your off season.
Thanks, bud. Good to see you.
All right. We'll be right back with the D3 when Cousin Sal's winning weekend continues.
Cousin Sal's winning weekend. Whoever said good things come in threes was talking about my next guest. They're my wizards of wagering, my gurus of gambling, my barons of betting, my overlords of the odds from the Against All Odds podcast, the D3, Harry, Brother Brian, and Darren the Parlay Kid. What is going on, boys?
What's going on, Sal?
How you doing, Sal?
What's going on, buddy?
Fellas, I just talked to Dan Orlovsky about one of his most notorious plays, or greatest highlights, depending on how you look at it. Remember when he stepped out of the end zone to avoid being trampled by Jared Allen on a pass rush? I told him I would have done the same thing. I probably would have ended up in the mezzanine. But anyway, I also talked to the captain of the Riverboat Casino about this, and his wheels, you guys know, his wheels are always spinning, and he thought it would be fun to bet on the greatest opt-out play of all time, and he put odds on it. Is it Dan Orlovsky's safety, 3-1 odds? Roberto Duran, no Moss fight, 5-1 odds. That's a good one. Brett Favre takes a record-breaking sack from Strahan, 10-1 odds. Or Antonio Brown, shirtless exit, 50-1 odds. Or you can go to field at even. Parlay Kid, let's start with you. What do you got?
So I'm partial to this Antonio Brown at 50-1 exit because I happen to be there live at that
That's
game.
right.
Field level, there to see Tom Brady, maybe playing in his last season, wasn't. But as it turned out, I got to see Antonio Brown's last game as he ceremoniously skipped off the field after taking his uniform off. There was nothing quite like it, but really, I guess not too surprising as we find out later.
Yeah, no kidding. That was the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning. I don't know what it was for Antonio Brown. All right, Harry, what are you doing? You going with one of the choices on the board?
I am. I'm going to go with the Brett Favre one. I mean, it was 2001. Strahan was a half sack away from the single season sack record. The game was late in the fourth. As we know, it meant nothing. Strahan went unblocked, and Favre totally gave himself up and hand-delivered him the record. And now it was such a thing that it was rehashed almost 25 years later when previous sack leader Mark Gastineau of the Jets flipped out on Favre at a baseball card convention saying he wants the sack record back, and basically saying it was Favre's fault and he doesn't he wants it back and he wants him to do something about it. That was one of the most awkward real confrontations between two athletes ever, Sal. Especially
since they were at a baseball card convention. What did they do? Why would they even bother with baseball? No, but yes, you're right. And we, when Jimmy, my cousin, would do the Fox pregame show, we made light of that. We reenacted the, basically making like a ballet move when Favre went down for Strahan. All right, Brian, you have a field bet. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the field. I'm shocked nobody else has chosen this one. And we didn't even talk about this, Sal, but the Mike Tyson versus Holyfield 2, which was in 1997. No better opt-out play than Tyson biting a piece of Holyfield's ear off.
Oh, you think that was on purpose?
Yeah, look, the funny thing with that fight is they first stopped it. Then they awarded just a 2-point deduction. They're like, we have to keep this fight going, only to let the fight go and for Tyson to bite his other ear 30 seconds later. So we'll never see anything quite like that again in sports. And that was the ultimate opt-out move, I think. So
that's great. How about that those two are friends now, and they're even business partners, and they sell like marijuana gummy ears and stuff or something? I don't know what it is, but all right, I'm going off the board too. I'm gonna say it's me with Jersey Boys, which is technically a play, and I walked out. I just couldn't take it. Just wasn't for me. No. All right, here we go. League of Their Own. Ready? Gina Davis, pinup model, best hitter in the league. She played Dottie. Kit Keller is her sister, played by Lori Petty. Dottie's the better player. Like I said, she's got it all. Her sister, Dottie, gets traded. Lori Petty gets traded from Dottie's team. They meet up in the championship. You guys remember what happens here. There's a throw to the plate. Dottie has Kit dead to rights, and what does she do? She drops the ball. She gives this to her little sister. She gives it up, and that's it. Tom Hanks' team loses. He gets drunk, and that was that. Completely through the game. Right, Parlay Kid? That was the subtext of that, right?
Yeah, it made me hate that movie.
Yeah, I know. It really could have ended. By the way, Roberto Duran's the answer. Giving up because he has a diarrhea in the ring. That has to be it. All right, listen, fellas, the Oklahoma City Thunder are on to the NBA Finals. Game 1 tips off June 5th, 6 weeks from now. I think there are some preseason football games scheduled before then. They've had an amazing season, OKC. Great young core, MVP SGH, Ed Holmgren, Jalen Williams, both sides of the ball, relentless defense, blah, blah, blah. Now, they have won. I'm giving them the title. I'm saying they beat the East team. But how about this? How many will they have in the decade? 20 to 29. Harry, I set the odds at 2.5, over or under Oklahoma City titles.
I'm going to go under, Sal. I'm going to go under. Having to win, not just reach, but win 3 titles is a bit excessive for a franchise that's been in OKC and has yet to have one. Like you said, you're going to give them this one, maybe so, but it's asking a lot still, especially when you have teams on the rise like San Antonio, Houston, and in 2012. Remember that this team had KD, Harden, and Westbrook, and everyone was saying how this is going to be the team moving forward. Looked unstoppable. They didn't even get one. So I'm going to go under 2.5 here, Sal.
Listen, everyone always says over for these questions. Honestly, I'll pick up the answer here. I'm going to agree with you, Harry. I'm going to say under. The Lakers won in 2020. Everyone's like, all right, that was a bubble win. That shouldn't count. It was against Miami.
Right.
Maybe they don't get too many more. But when the Bucks won, everyone's like, oh, Giannis is going to win a bunch. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Same with Golden State. Steph's not done, right? He'll get a few more. That didn't happen. Denver was unworldly, right? With Jokic, that's probably it for them. Celtics were definitely heads and shoulders above everyone last year. OKC, I get it. They're young. They have good contracts, but this league is too fickle. Too many players unhappy with their situation,
Correct.
Looking to be on the move. Who knows where Giannis ends up? I'll say this year they win. Maybe one more, but I'm going under 2.5. Parlay Kid, you agree with me?
I agree, Sal. Under 2.5 here. Winning is hard, Sal, especially in the NBA, where we haven't really seen these teams, like you just mentioned, win a second title when you thought for sure it could happen. And some of these teams have already fallen so far off. Like you said, you bring up the Bucks. I mean, they're most likely not even going to have Giannis on their team after this year. So winning is hard. I don't see them getting to 3 here, Sal. Let's even give them this one. I think getting to 2 is going to be difficult before the end of this decade. I'll take the under 2.5.
All right, Brian. Now, when I suggested this on another chain, the biggest issue was just figuring out what the decade is, and it is 2020 to 2029. You are going against us, though. You love this OKC team. You'd say 3 or 4 maybe this decade.
Yeah, look, they've been good to me so far in these playoffs. But yeah, I'll go over the 2.5. I think, if there's ever going to be a team that's going to be like the Warriors, like we saw with the Warriors, this will be it. And, again, we have to figure, we're all figuring they win this season based on being a clear favorite here in the finals. They're already a clear favorite next year. I think they're only like plus 260, which is as low as you could possibly get to win the title. And if they're healthy, again, obviously health plays into it, which is probably why you guys are going under here. But look, if they're not healthy, or maybe there's a crazy trade with Giannis that puts somebody else over the edge, possibly. But look, for them to win, I think they win this year, next, and then one of the following 3. The future draft capital is crazy. They still have a ton of first-round picks. They have a ton of pick swaps. So this team could make trades, or when, some of their free agents leave, they can easily swap them out with some future draft picks. So I think, I know there's not a ton of years left here in this decade, but I'm going to say
that's one thing we
over.
could agree on. There's not a lot of years left. We're like halfway through. Yeah. All right. All right. So if it's not OKC, Parlay Kid, who is going to have the most titles in the 2020s? What do you think?
That's a great question. Well, we got to take somebody that's probably already won it, right? So in this decade. So I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets here, Sal. They did take OKC to 7 games, probably their most competitive series for OKC for sure. And I think Denver is seeing what they need to do for Jokic. He has yet to play with a true second star. I think they go out of their way this offseason to make sure they get him someone to help take the load off him. I think Denver gets back there within the next few years, wins one more title, and that will be enough to cement this one.
One more title. Get out of here, Parlay Kid. No, really, get out of here. You have to catch a bus. We will see you against the laws next week.
Thanks,
all right,
guys.
Parlay Kid.
Thanks for having me. Good
all
luck.
right. We're going to get Harry's answer, even though it doesn't count. Harry, who is going to have the most wins?
Well, since I'm sorry Darren's leaving, but I'm going to say my Mavs. My Mavs.
Oh, yeah.
Look, the Lakers have no inside game, and LeBron's time is ticking. Golden State is good, not great, and getting old as well. Boston, no Tatum for at least a year. So why not my Mavericks, Sal?
All right. You're going OKC, though, right, Brian?
Yeah, look, I'm going OKC. Look, I love Cooper Flagg, phenomenal and winning player. And look, I take Flagg over almost all the guys in the NBA right now. If you're telling me a guy for the next 10 years, I would take him over a lot of them. But I will say I'm not, Harry is away, but clearly on drugs or something, because do you think Kyrie, do you really think, look, you have to assume, right, the Thunder are winning. Just say you're assuming they win this year. And even just this year, that means that the Mavs have to win 2 more. If the Thunder win next year, that means you got to win 3. I mean, do you possibly think Kyrie and AD will stay healthy, considering Kyrie's not even really, doubt he's even playing next season.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to again factor that in here. So I'm not really sure.
He's just trolling. Just trolling.
I think
from overseas.
he likes, he sticks with these one teams.
Hey, Sal, I don't know, Brian. This in 8-9 years of doing this podcast, he's never touted a team so much. Never his Raiders, never his Yankees, so. Never his Knicks. Like he does OKC all of a sudden. He loves this team.
Well, they're pretty good. I'll say that.
Pretty good, but
they're going to win this year, and they're young and all that stuff, and they're better than Dallas. So I don't know if you win that argument. All right, I'm going to take Boston. They already have one. They'll be 1-1 with OKC. Tatum's going to be back, probably not next year. I think they'll sign someone. I think Giannis is just as good a shot going to Boston as anyone else for Jaylen Brown, perhaps. I'm trying to create a soundbite for the next Celtics documentary. Is it working? We have room tone here? I don't know. Celtics get 3 this decade, 24, 27, and 28. So that's my pick, Celtics. All right, listen, guys, let's take a quick break and allow Harry time to order room service. When we get back, we'll give out our picks for Saturday's Belmont Stakes. And it's a rematch of the World Series as the Yankees head to LA to take on the Dodgers this weekend. But will this year's home run champion come from one of those teams? We're going to tell you definitively when Cousin Sal's winning weekend continues. All right, welcome back to Cousin Sal's winning weekend. I am here with the D3 minus the Parlay Kid, who said he had to take a bus. I thought it was for a track tournament, but it's Brian, he's your brother. He just had a transfer to the Walt Whitman Mall. He likes to ride the bus? Is that what goes on? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll move on without him. The third and final leg of the Triple Crown is this weekend. The Belmont Stakes back at Saratoga Racetrack as Belmont Park continues to undergo renovations. Harry, are you in charge of these renovations? Why is it taking so long?
I'd love to be. It's a little ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll get you a gig there. All right, anyway, let's get to our picks. You have the Derby winner, Sovereignty, and the Preakness winner, Journalism, and then there are some other horses in there too. Harry, you won the Preakness, right? So should we start with you? You didn't actually win. You picked the horse that won, but yeah.
Correct. And that was Journalism, and I took Journalism for the Derby, ran second too, but I'm off Journalism, Sal. I'm off Journalism. I'm on Baeza. Had time to rest, didn't run in the Preakness. Flavian Pratt, top-notch jockey on him. And did still finish strong in Louisville. Baeza did. Came in third in a 20-horse field, so give me Baeza.
All right, this is a 6-horse race, right? No triple? You always have a triple that loses for us. You're not going to throw
6
one
horses,
out?
I got to be out. Can't have a trifecta with six.
Okay. All right. You understand that, Brian? You can't have a trifecta with only 6. Yeah.
I was expecting, like a 4-horse tri box from Harry there with 6 horses, but we didn't get it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Your brother, Brian, is going with Sovereignty.
Yep.
All right. Obviously, the winner of the Derby, right? Now I'm getting confused.
Yep.
Brian, what do you go? You're going with Journalism, winner of Preakness.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Harry's. This was Harry's pick, Journalism for the Preakness. And look, the way he won the Preakness, right, fighting through like he did was amazing. And the fact that he's running in this one, a lot of times these horses like take off these races, but he's racing in all 3, which makes me think the owner and the trainer are confident he could win this one again, right? Maybe he wants a little bit of revenge on Sovereignty for the Derby. The only thing is, look, I do wish, Sal, you were talking about like the old Belmont. What made that great was the change in the distance.
Right.
which, you could always get like a long shot winning there potentially. But the fact this is comparable to the other races in terms of distance on the track too, I think that's good for these top horses. So I'll take journalism here.
All right, there you go. I am going not off the board. This is a horse that's actually entered. Rodriguez, though. Authentic is the father, proud father of Rodriguez. Authentic won the Derby in 2020. Bob Bafford's a trainer. We haven't heard his name in a minute, right, for various reasons. Mike Smith is in the saddle, Hall of Fame jockey. 5 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds, and a third. But the biggest reason I like this horse is because our friend and Jimmy Kimmel's sidekick, Guillermo Rodriguez, is now immobilized. He broke his ankle playing basketball. And it's a big deal at the show. He didn't even go to NBA Media Day because he got a letter from his doctor saying that he couldn't fly. And everybody in the office thought it was bullshit, and that he forced the doctor to write that letter. So anyway, a lot of this to say, an immobilized Guillermo Rodriguez, and then you have a horse, the fastest horse in the field. That would be the ultimate irony right there. That's what I think. Vamos, Rodriguez, get us to the window in honor of our fibbing friend Guillermo. I think you get about 6-1 there. All right, listen, let's move to football, because I love it. We're fewer than 100 days remaining. I always want to find ways to jump on betting the football season. Last week, the NFL ruled the tush push will be back. And for better or worse, I think they needed 22 votes to get rid of it. They only got 20, but let's make some money off of this, because FanDuel has specials for all 32 teams, and some of these play into the fact that the tush push remains. Brian, let's go with your pick for the Eagles, an Eagles special, if you will.
Yeah, and look, I know you like this one, Sal, but the Eagles 1+ rushing touchdown in every game at plus 1,000. I really like this one. I thought this was the best value on the board for some of these specials that they had for the Eagles. But look, 29 rushing touchdowns last season in the regular season. And while Hurts could get less, maybe he gets a few less, Barkley could always get more, right? It was a pretty dominant offensive line, especially as we saw like later in the season. And you have to figure, right, there's going to be, maybe 3 to 5 games where Barkley potentially breaks a long touchdown run. And now in the other, in the other games, could you potentially get inside the 2-yard line? Because once you get inside the 2-yard line, that's where the tush push happens, right? And it could happen from first, second, third down. They'll try it as many times as they need. So it's a real possibility. And it's also a possibility that's a big FU to the league this year after putting this up for a vote again.
Sure.
That lost, and maybe it's going to be the last year. So Philly might go for it even more. So 10-1 for a rushing touchdown in every game, I thought is solid.
So especially since there's 17-game season, you're going to get it in at least 14 or 15,
yeah.
Right? So 23 was a disaster for them. They fell apart in the second half of the year. But in 2024, they only didn't rush for a touchdown against the Browns, and then the last game against the Giants. That's what sucks. There's not a lot you could do about that last game, right, if they don't need it. In 2022, it was 2 teams. It was the Saints and the Commanders. So if you could get 15, you're staring at 10-1 odds, and you just have to play with really 2 games. I think it's worth it. Or maybe just take Hurts at most of the time minus 130 to score a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he averaged. I remember I was looking at that, like, that's crazy. He ended up with 14, 15, and 13 rushing touchdowns the last 3 years. So practically won a game if you need to Martindale a bet. Not that I would ever recommend that at all. So I'm with you, Bry. Harry, what are you going to go with?
I'm going to go at minus $1.25, Sal, that the Eagles beat your Dallas Cowboys both times. Now,
Come on.
Now, Philly destroyed Dallas and Dak both times last year by a combined score of 75-13. Washington is now the second best team in the NFC East, not Jerry's Misfits. Dak doesn't win big games. Dallas can't stop or have answers for Saquon. Opening night will be a Philly onslaught, and in November, it'll be built up as a big rivalry game, but will be just another game for Philly. And Sal, they say things are bigger in Texas. Well, come November, what we will see in Dallas that's huge is the holes in the Dallas defense.
Oh, my
Philly
God.
wins both by a combined 30 points, and that just happens to be the number of years the last time Dallas tasted an NFC title game. Just saying.
Wow, it just happens to be, or you just actually made it that way? You named the score. I love it. Dak has beaten Philly before, I will say. All right, let's go. Minus 125. I haven't looked. I think they're probably a 6.5, 7-point favorite. opening game, and that for you to get value, what would that be, Brian? Pick 'em then in Dallas, in the game in Dallas?
Yeah.
I'm not sure for that to work out. All right, shame on you, Harry. Parlay Kid has the Eagles to score one or more touchdown in every game at -160. He loves doing that. We did that with the 49ers. We did that with the Ravens. I feel like you're right there. That's another one that you're going to get 16 out of 17 or 17 out of 17. All right, listen, I didn't forget about baseball. Big series this weekend between the Yankees and Dodgers. I'm more looking forward to when the Mets come next week. Pinstripe punks get out of the way, tag in the more likable New York team. But it is a nice showdown between Ohtani and Judge, and so is this home run race. So let's make our picks for most home runs this season. We did this in March. Now, the Parlay Kid who's on a bus somewhere is the only one who wants to stick probably with his pick, which was Ohtani, right? He had Ohtani at 5-1. Ohtani has 20 home runs. So let's take a look, first of all, for what the odds are right now. Judge, you can get a +105. He has 18. Ohtani, you get a +165. He has 20. Schwarber, you could get at 6-1. He has 18. And Cal Riley, how did we not have Cal Riley? 12-1 odds. He has 19. Harry, let's start with you. You had Alonso going into the year at 15-1. He has 11. He's a fun year for
11.
sure. 11's not going to do it, though.
Probably not going to get it done, Sal. So I'm going to go Ohtani as well. A career high 54 home runs last year. And DHing this year right now, so less chance of injury. And three of the last 4 years, he's at 44 or more. And over that same stretch, he's played 155 games or more. So I'm going to go Ohtani, who actually leads right now, and it's just he's a machine.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I had Marcell Ozuna at 55-1. He only has 9, so that bet is crushed. But I am going to go Ohtani right now. It was +200 earlier in the week. Now it's +165. Like I said, like Harry, I say get it while you can. He has 12 home runs in May, and you can see him building momentum. Actually, Judge has more walks, and I think that'll keep up as the year goes on. By the way, Harry, I don't know if you saw that. Judge intentionally walked the other day, and they score 1-0. But anyway,
well, everyone's
really
still welcome on that because someone's got to score to win a game. So
yeah. But it doesn't have to be because of an intentional pass. I'm saying +165 is all I'm saying on Ohtani right there. Brian, you were going with Judge. Why? You like the Yankees?
No. Well, look, I normally wouldn't. Judge at some point is going to have one of those months where he has 12, 13 home runs. And then I feel like this line could balloon to like a -300 favorite.
All right, fellas, good job by you. We're going to be right back to wrap things up on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. We are all out of time. The refs are refusing to put 0.5 seconds back on the clock, so that's that. There's nothing we can do about it. My thanks to Emmy Darling, Dan Orlovsky, who I hope will bring glory to the USA as the quarterback of our Olympic flag football team. And thanks to the D3, who I think would certainly win gold if team sports betting ever becomes an Olympic competition. Next week, we'll talk to Sugar Sean O'Malley ahead of his big rematch with Marav Valishvili at UFC 316. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And please always remember, you may feel like an underdog, but just know you're all my favorites. Happy handicapping.